All right, on to the debut. Yes, so after the Mariah May Queen Aminata match, it was Deonna Purrazzo making her AEW debut, officially announcing that she is all elite. And the setup was perfect. We probably should have called this, knowing that this was going to take place in New Jersey. Tony Khan has been very good about that, sort of the connection. From that standpoint, you can look back at all the different ones throughout AEW's history when things just seem to connect, whether geographically, all those things. That's when you make sort of the big splash. And so Deonna Purrazzo officially in AEW now. So leaving Impact / TNA for AEW seemed like the most likely move. I think most of us knew that was going to take place. That was the rumor. It seemed more likely than going back to WWE for a second go around there to try to again maybe break into that mold there. But AEW most likely destination. Now the question is, what does this mean for AEW's women's division moving forward now that you've added the Virtuosa to the roster? And I will tell you that I think this is a huge addition. And, for starters, just the skill set of Deonna Purrazzo, if you watched her matches in Impact, she was, I mean, really talking about just someone who was sort of the face of the division for a very long time there, and how she continued to kind of, grow her skills during that run in Impact and have a lot of really good matches and really good storylines, bringing out the character work and all those different things. But just from a wrestling standpoint, and we know what AEW values, we know what AEW fans value, and her wrestling is going to be, again, at a very elite level, pun intended. So yeah, just based on the technical prowess and just the technician style, all those things. And I think when you consider this is the start of a new year, right? And you can hear all the criticisms about AEW and all the different things that Tony Khan has struggled with in terms of maybe 2023, maybe before that. I think adding someone like Deonna Purrazzo to the mix is just a huge boost for the division because you are kind of essentially trying to do a reset. You know your champions are. Tony Storm is your AEW Women's World Champion, which again, clearly right off the bat, Deonna Purrazzo interacting with Mariah May, bringing up Tony Storm, both of them kind of trashing New Jersey, which I thought was a good job in terms of like the story connecting. Tony Storm does it in a promo. She's not doing, doesn't want to be in New Jersey. Mariah May does it after her match. And then you have Purrazzo come out. I thought the story kind of told itself there. So immediately going after the top person doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to get a title match right off the bat, but at least making your intentions clear that you are going after the champion. You feel you're good enough on that level to where you should be going after the AEW World Champion, in the women's division. And so I think that was a good starting point. And again, I think this is just from a talent perspective, it's huge because you look around the roster, right? And this feels like a bit of a reset for AEW moving forward with the women's division. Britt Baker is going to be back at some point. And I'm looking at the roster here right in front of me because I'm like, all right, we don't want to leave anything out here. Athena has had a great run as ROH Women's Champion. And again, I know the criticism is that a lot of people maybe don't see it, haven't seen all those things, but you are talking about, there's talent there, right? And then you keep going down the roster. Jamie Hayter is going to come back at some point. A Deonna Purrazzo, Jamie Hayter match. Like that sounds like a lot of fun. And there are a lot of those matches for Deonna Purrazzo moving forward. And again, we talked about the current champions, Tony Storm, Julia Hart, your TBS champion. You've got Statlander. And I know I'm going to leave someone out. I'm not doing it intentionally. I'm just kind of quickly running through the list. Like we said, Mariah May is being positioned in a premier spot. And I thought the debut was good. I thought it was, kind of the match that you expected just for her debut. You've got a lot of other people on the roster, right? In terms of, we've seen a lot of sort of featured spots for everyone. It's Rita D, someone who's also teased to return to the roster. Sky Blue, has kind of started her ascent up the AEW Women's Division ladder. Thunder Rosa recently came back. You've got Willow, and again, I know I'm going to leave some names out, but I think you've got the pieces there. And I think, again, making the push to add a Deonna Purrazzo is significant because it gives you a lot more possibilities to do multiple women's storylines, right? Rather than just, again, the criticism for the longest time was just having, the one women's segment on the show or the one women's match. Like you have many other opportunities now if you want to try different things, which AEW has enough programming that they can do this across multiple shows, as we know. But I just think it's a huge addition because I look at sort of the way this thing is trending, and I do think it's starting to trend in the right direction. Not everybody will agree with that. Everybody will try to compare it to the WWE's women's roster and all that. But if you're just looking at sort of the pieces that are being added, and remember, there's also the possibility Mercedes Moné comes in. If that's something that happens sooner rather than later, you're talking about another sort of established women's star joining the roster. And I think this is what it's all about. It's not, we're not to the point anymore, I think, with the AEW women's division that it's about a lack of talent, because I do think the talent is there. It's just utilizing that talent, putting talent in the right position to succeed, and sort of letting, again, the skills speak for themselves. And I think that's where, again, you're going to see that from a wrestling standpoint with Deonna Purrazzo. Her skills are not going to be questioned. Like, you're going to be able to see it from day one. If you're someone who hasn't watched Impact a lot, and again, I know there are a lot of people who try to watch everything, but if you haven't watched it a lot, you're going to see the skills that are there from a wrestling standpoint, and the character work and all those things. And so, putting together more storylines, weaving more threads together in this women's division is going to be huge for AEW moving forward. And I think that's why adding a Deonna Purrazzo to the mix at least shows you that I know Tony Khan could sign anyone and everyone, and many times maybe he has, but it's at least showing, all right, we are serious about this. Like, we are trying to at least, put all the top pieces in place that we have. And like I said, if you consider that from a star standpoint, whether it's Purrazzo now being able to raise her profile more in AEW than she could in Impact, we just, always had sort of a limited ceiling there in terms of the visibility. You've got established stars, whether it's Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and again, Tony Storm. Now you keep going down the line. There's a lot of fun possibilities, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how Tony Khan is able to put it all together to make it work and get this AEW women's division, trending in the direction I think fans want to see it trending in. And again, some people have been more happier with the AEW women's division than others, but I do think this is a big addition in terms of being able to feature new talent and feature talent that I think, if put in the right spot, can really succeed and improve your overall women's division and give it a much better sort of reaction to it from a fan perspective. So a huge signing for AEW, picking up Deonna Purrazzo, who is, yes, now all elite.